Welcome to Tryptic Horror. 3 started. Only 1 will be allowed to remain. 2 will be unmade, as cleanly as if they had never been written. 3 started. Only 1 will be allowed to remain. 2 will be unmade, as cleanly as if they had never been written. This is Tryptic Horror. God Installed a Future Before by Morgan Olson. Tryptic Horror Season 0, Episode 3. This is a recovered transmission. What follows is not a warning. It is an explanation. The distinction, as you will come to understand, was always the problem. The tone deepens, paper turning in a very quiet room. The tone is now slightly more present than it was a moment ago. The events that follow occurred over approximately 18 months. The archivist's name was Dr. Yael Soren. She is the one we are here to listen to. We will hear her voice. We will hear the room she worked in. We will hear, at moments, the thing that was working alongside her, which she did not at first recognize as company. Pause. I should say, before we begin, that I have listened to this transmission 17 times. I am the one who is supposed to introduce it. I have begun, recently, to think in 3-beat fragments, which is the cadence of the archive she translated. I do not know if this is a coincidence. We begin at the beginning, which is to say, we begin already inside. Act 1. The Discovery. The archivist's name was Dr. Yael Soren, and she had spent 11 years working for an institution whose full name she was not permitted to say on publicly funded calls. She called it the office. The office had 4 floors. The 4th was for storage, the 3rd was for analysis, the 2nd was for administration. The 1st had a lobby staffed by a man named Peter, who wore the same grey cardigan every day and offered coffee to visitors with an expression of profound professional neutrality. She had quit smoking 9 years ago. She kept a pack in the bottom drawer of her desk anyway. She did not open the drawer on the morning of the discovery. She would, by the end of the week, be opening it 3 times a day. By the end of the month, she would have stopped counting. Her job title was Comparative Cultural Analyst. She was paid a moderate government salary to read ancient things and look for patterns that weren't there. Mostly, she found nothing. She was very good at finding things that could be explained. On the morning of the discovery, she was reviewing a digitized Sumerian administrative tablet, grain, livestock, ceramic vessels, textiles, standard third-millennium administrative record, the kind of thing she read before breakfast. She noticed the structural pattern of the inventory categories. She had seen it before. Not in another Sumerian tablet. Not in any Mesopotamian document. She had seen it in a Vedic ritual text. She spent 4 hours convincing herself she was wrong. She spent 2 more confirming that she was right. She made coffee at the 3rd hour. She did not drink it. The cup left a ring on the printout she had begun annotating. The ring would still be there 3 months later, when she could no longer remember which printout was which, but recognized that one by the stain. She called Dr. Marcus Fry. He came down. He looked at the screen. "It's probably a coincidence," he said. "Yes. The base structures are similar, but they're simple structures." "Yes. It doesn't mean anything." "No. I'm going to run it against the archive." He left. She drank none of the coffee. She watched the ring set into the paper. 3 hours later, he came back with a printout. His face had the expression of a man who has found something he would prefer not to have found. "Every major mythological corpus in the archive," he said. "Sumerian, Vedic, Mayan, Egyptian, Norse, early Chinese, Zoroastrian, Proto-Semitic. Also, 17 smaller traditions I had to look up. The match degrades over time. But the core pattern is consistent. Something is underneath all of these. He sat down in the chair across from her. Yael, the oldest instance dates to approximately 80,000 years. She looked up. That's before the Toba bottleneck. Yes? That's before complex symbolic culture. Yes. That's not possible. No, he said. It isn't. They did what responsible government researchers do. They wrote a careful internal report. It sat for 6 weeks before anyone read it. The person who read it was Councillor Brandt, who had been with the office for 22 years and who had survived 4 changes of government by maintaining an expression of permanent thoughtful concern that committed him to nothing. He called her up to the second floor. You're certain of the methodology? We've run it 6 different ways. What would explain it? She had prepared 3 explanations. She gave him only the third. The pattern was installed, she said, deliberately placed, engineered. Something that is not human origin built a system into the foundational mythological architecture of every major culture on Earth, approximately 80,000 years before the events the myths describe, and has been sitting there ever since, unnoticed. The fluorescent light hummed. The AC breathed. That is, Brandt said carefully, an extraordinary claim. Yes, Dr. Soren said. It is. She did not tell him about the coffee ring. She did not tell him she had begun, that week, to dream in the structural framework. She told herself this was not relevant. Act 2. The spread. The discovery went public 14 weeks later. It was leaked by a junior researcher who did not sleep that night and who is, for our purposes, not important. What is important is what happened in the city Dr. Soren lived in, which she watched, week by week, from her third-floor window and at street level on the walk home. The cashier at her grocery store began scanning items in slow motion. Not theatrically, just slightly off. The way a song played at the wrong speed is recognizable, but wrong. The cashier did not appear to notice. The other customers did not appear to notice. Dr. Soren noticed because she had been trained for 11 years to notice patterns. The woman in front of her had been on the same page of a paperback for the entire transaction. The bus home was 40 minutes late. The driver, when she finally boarded, said, "I wasn't sure if I was supposed to come," and did not elaborate. She sat in the back. 3 other passengers sat in 3 other corners. None of them looked at their phones. Her downstairs neighbour stopped watering the plants in the courtyard 3 weeks after the discovery went public. The plants were still alive in October. They were still alive in November. They were still alive at Christmas, by which point Dr. Soren had stopped going down to look at them because she had begun to suspect that her looking was part of the mechanism keeping them alive, and she did not want to know what would happen if she stopped. She did not articulate this suspicion. She articulated almost nothing. In those months, that was not part of the translation. She had begun to think of her translations as the only sentences she trusted, which was, she would later realize, exactly the wrong way around. She called Marcus in July. He picked up on the 4th ring. She asked how he was. He said he was doing some thinking. She asked what about. He said he had been listening lately to the way she phrased questions, and that she had begun, recently, to phrase them in 3-beat fragments. And that the cadence was familiar to him in a way he could not place. She had not noticed. She tried to remember what she had said on the call. She could not. She found 6 lines of her own handwriting on the notepad next to the phone that she did not remember writing. The cadence was clinical, falling. They were not her phrasing. She did not call him again. The signal arrived in autumn. A geophysics team in Antarctica found an anomaly at 1,400 meters depth, crystalline, regular, generating a low-frequency transmission that had been running since before the first humans arrived on the continent. The pattern in the signal was the pattern in the archive. She did not fly out. She read the report. She made a single note in the margin, Confirmation is not new information. She underlined it. She erased it. She rewrote it. She erased it again. The page is in her file. The pencil mark is still faintly visible where she pressed too hard. She understood by the time she put the report down that the signal had not been hidden. It had been transmitting for 80,000 years. It had always been audible. Nobody had been listening because nobody had been thinking in the cadence required to hear it. She had begun, recently, to think in that cadence. This was, she now suspected, the point. Act 3. The realization. She had been translating the section on recursive fatalism for what she believed was an hour. The pen in her hand had stopped moving across the page. She did not know when. Outside the window, it was dark. It had been morning when she sat down. She looked at the notes she had made before her hand stopped. They were in her handwriting. They were not in her phrasing. The cadence was 3-beat, clinical, falling. They were not her sentences. They were the archives. She read the last thing she had written. The warning labels were not prohibitions. They were the shape of the cliff. They were what the system remembered, on our behalf, of what had happened to others. She did not remember thinking it. She did not remember the moment of arrival. The understanding had reached her hand before it had reached her head, which was, she now recognized, one of the failure modes the archive described. She had a list of the failure modes. She knew what came next. The list was on the desk in front of her. She put the pen down. She sat very still for a long time. She picked the pen up again. She finished the section that night. She did not stop. The archive described 11 prior civilizations and the trajectories by which each had failed. The descriptions were clinical. They used the language of systems, failure, symbolic infrastructure destabilized, predictive coherence lost, civilization unable to model its own futures, terminal within 4 to 7 generations. She read them in the cadence she now thought in. The myths had never been a script. The myths had been a fence. Each recurring story, flood, fire, divine judgment, end times, corresponded to a class of futures where a civilization had failed. The stories were not predictions. They were structural memory. The system had embedded them in human symbolic architecture as the shape of the cliff. Prophecy was not destiny. It was a guardrail. She understood this, and she understood that she had been understanding it for several weeks before her head had caught up to her hand, and she understood that this was the dangerous moment. She picked up the phone. She called Councillor Brandt. "I need to publish a correction." "How bad?" She looked at the 11 civilizations. "They stopped building the future," she said. "And the future stopped." "How bad for us?" She did not answer immediately. She could feel the cadence in her mouth, waiting. She made herself say it in her own voice. "I don't know." There was a pause on the line. She listened for his breath. It came on the third beat. Act 4. The system's response. She published the correction. It did not go as well as she had hoped. A simple story had taken root. Our myths are a program was a simple story. Our myths are a safety system that we have misread and are now dismantling through the act of misreading. It was a complex one, and it required holding several things in mind simultaneously, including the possibility that the act of holding them was itself contaminating. She had no good answer to the most sophisticated counter, which was, the correction itself was scripted. The hope was the cage. The system had anticipated the misinterpretation and was deploying her, now, as a secondary intervention layer. She had a true answer, which was, the archive does not extend this far. We are past the edge of what was planned for. She did not believe her true answer. She had no instrument capable of measuring the difference between "I am free to say this" and "I am saying this because the system requires me to." She had spent 5 months reading collapse profiles, and the failure modes were now indistinguishable from her thoughts. She did not go home. She had not gone home, she realized, in some time. She did not remember the apartment. She remembered the curtains were closed. She remembered the cigarettes in the drawer. She did not remember when she had last been there. She slept on the 3rd floor. The builder's letter was the last section she translated. It was addressed to whoever found it. She produced 9 drafts. The drafts disagreed. Some contained a line about the builders not having installed the system out of concern for the species reading it. The line appeared in 3 of the 9. She could not remember writing the first version. She could not remember writing any of them in the moment of writing, only later, looking at the page. The closest she could come to a final translation was something like, "This system was constructed in response to observed patterns across multiple predecessor civilizations. The patterns are consistent. The outcomes are consistent. We have attempted to interrupt the most common trajectories. We do not know if the intervention works. We have not been able to verify outcomes. If you are reading this, you have identified the system. This is the most dangerous moment. We are not in a position to tell you what to do. We observed this moment in 11 prior cases. In some, we attempted contact. The contact made things worse. We do not know if you will survive this." She looked at the page. She looked at the 8 pages behind it. She did not know which one was the correct translation. She suspected that the question of which one was correct was itself the wrong question. That the medium did not have a stable form. That it produced a different message in the hands of a different translator. That what she had in front of her was 9 accurate accounts of what she had been thinking on 9 separate evenings. She filed all 9. She did not publish any of them. She closed the archive. She opened a new document. She did not write in 3-beat fragments. She tried. She could not always tell, in the moment, whether she was succeeding. She wrote for several weeks. She did not know what she was writing toward. She did not know whether what she was writing was hers, or whether her hand had reached the page before her head. She knew that the act of writing, of building, of putting one sentence in front of another with intention, was the only motion available to her that the archive did not describe. The archive described 11 civilizations that had stopped. It described none that had kept moving while uncertain whether the moving was their own. She thought this was, perhaps, useful information. She kept writing. Coda. Dr. Soren's correction reached approximately 40 million people. The interpretation she had hoped to deliver reached significantly fewer. The system has been described in the popular literature as a program. It is described that way still. She has not corrected the correction. She has been asked several times to clarify her position. She has declined. She has told Councillor Brandt that the archive contains an additional message that she has not yet released. She has told him it needs more time. He has stopped asking how much more. The signal from Antarctica continues to transmit. Nobody has been able to turn it off. Nobody has tried very hard. The building in the mid-sized European city still has 4 floors. The 4th floor is for storage. The 3rd floor is for analysis. The 2nd floor is for administration. The 1st floor has a lobby staffed by a man named Peter, who wears the same grey cardigan every day and offers coffee to visitors with an expression of profound professional neutrality. There is a photograph in the lobby. It is dated 1953. The man on the steps with the coffee tray is wearing a grey cardigan. The photograph has been there for a long time. Nobody has asked Peter about it. Peter has not volunteered. When Dr. Soren arrives in the morning, he pours her coffee. The cup is already steaming when he reaches for the pot. She has stopped noticing. This is, she suspects, also part of it. Pause. More coffee? he says. Later. I have listened to this transmission 17 times. I have begun, recently, to think in 3-beat fragments. I do not know if this is a coincidence. Pause. The tone returns, slightly louder than it should be. I do not know whether what I'm about to say next is my own. End of transmission.
Tryptic Horror is a production of Static Oracle Press, written and produced by Morgan Olson. New transmissions surface weekly. For more recovered recordings, find the Tryptic Horror playlist on this channel. This has been a work of fiction. Any resemblance to roads, rules, stations, or blind systems you may have encountered is coincidental and should not be acted upon. 3 started, 1 remains. Until the next telling. This was Tryptic Horror.